and the South African government will have an opportunity to see how they can use that to govern. And in South Africa, this movement is marked by a powerful gathering, otherwise known as the Social Media Summit for Government 2025. And it's going to be hosted by Decode Communication and the University of Johannesburg. And now with the theme, Empowering Government Through Digital Connections, the summit will focus on how public institutions can build trust, engage citizens, and deliver services more effectively through innovative use of social media. Now joining me on the line is Lorato Tseking, who is CEO of Decode Communications, and to unpack what this engagement means for the future of government communication in digital world. Good morning, and thank you so much for your time, Lorato.
Good morning, Puleng, and good morning to the listeners across our wide African continent.
Thank you for being here. I want us to have a look at this, and quite interesting, really. Will you have the relevant people in the room? Because I know young people will definitely attend this.
Yes, definitely we have the relevant people in the room. So, for instance, we open the first speaker that is kicking us off is the executive mayor of the city of Tshwane, and many will know the city of Tshwane as after New York, after Washington. The city of Tshwane has the most number of embassies and consulates, right? So besides its significance just being the administrative capital of South Africa, it's also, on the global stage that's significant. And the reason here it is because this is somebody who, wrote her thesis on nation building, but and she's then her PhD thesis, Dr. Nasipi Moya, and she's now demonstrating how, or at least the importance of citizen engagement, when you're doing governance, because sometimes a lot of the politicians and public representatives think that governance is just about them doing the work and missing the step of connecting and communicating with citizens. You and I and your listeners, on a regular basis, we interface with a number of government services, whether it's in health through clinics, hospitals, or whether it's through, looking for important documents such as birth certificates, death certificates at, home affairs kind of departments, right? But we know that at all those points of interface, there are always challenges, whether the system is offline or whether, there would be one policy that has changed that affects citizens. And the importance, therefore, is the linkage between the citizens who need this service and the communicators who then empower the citizens to say, on a day when our system is offline, don't drive all the way or take a taxi all the way to a service point, while they could have used social media to communicate citizens to inform them, therefore, saving time and saving the money, the little money that they don't have.
Okay. And I just want us to have a look at a broader view now of how, of course, social media has changed the relationship between citizens and government. And is it building more trust or creating some sort of new challenges?
I think it's a bit of both, Puleng, right? So if you consider what was happening in Kenya last week, right? They were celebrating or they were commemorating the anniversary of the protests, the nationwide protests that they had throughout the country last year, as a way of demonstrating to the government of the day their own displeasure and dissatisfaction, right? And this is when citizens demonstrate that we are displeased about a decision that you've made, and we are going to demonstrate. And the mobilization was mainly through social media, where a lot of the younger people in Kenya were using social media to share information with one another, know where they are going to gather, but importantly, what it is that they should be mobilizing around. You even in South Africa, you can think about the 2021 July unrest, right, which was the biggest and the most destructive unrest, which cost the economy 50 billion South African rands, and there were over 300 people that died during that 8-day period, right? So the use of social media was the biggest tool that was used to mobilize citizens, inform citizens, and even the other who could, protect their infrastructure. And you see in all of that it's a thing that, to your question, that when trust is broken, what is the utility of social media in, putting out information, ensuring that citizens are able to organize themselves and mobilize? Of course, on the flip side is where you now see a number of government, organizations, such as in South Africa, from a corruption busting point of view, we have a special investigations unit, which is meant to, collect money from people that would have gotten money nefariously, right? And you see them using social media in such a good way where once they have investigated a matter, they then literally utilize social media to give us the backstory. And therefore, you don't just see, or you don't just have to depend on a court of law for us to understand and know the matter. So I'm saying in that way, it is building trust, because then the trust is growing in this particular agency, that when they say that they're busting corruption, indeed they are, because there's a lot of transparency in how they do their work and how they eventually recover the money that you and I as citizens need for health and for many other services.
All right, so you at Decode Communications, you offer some training on digital communications, but what other gaps are there for the government to be able to make use of social media effectively?
The one biggest gap pulling is that we're finding that many government departments and government heads, they don't prioritize social media as a way of connecting with citizens, right? So it's almost an afterthought. So that is the first thing that we try and look at, to say, let us showcase where other government entities have and public institutions have utilized social media to get to citizens. And you think about a hospital as an example, right? And one of the things that we've been able to at least influence is to say, if you are a Dr. George Mukari Hospital, which is in a township called Garangua in Pretoria, right? Majority of the people there speak Setswana. So the people on Facebook would ask questions in Setswana, would want to communicate with the hospital in Setswana, which is the indigenous language of the people in and around that area. And the question to the social media managers has been, why do you insist on responding back in English? Right? You can actually do a dual response where you respond in Setswana and you also respond in so that way you then, and that is pervasive throughout the African continent, where you have many indigenous languages, but people believe that because the business communication language is only stick to English, and you therefore you are now leaving a lot of citizens, because, and it's not only about being literate, but it is about the comfort levels. People are comfortable speaking in their own language. Therefore, as a government department and entity, do that as well. The second and the one that we're grappling with is AI, right? There's a lot of fear around what AI is all about, what it does, whether it's going to steal information, and you're realizing that the adoption with government is then a lot slower. So if you look at corporate companies, they've adopted, firstly, they have governance mechanisms to make sure that people do it ethically, and then there's a high adoption. But in government and public services, it is taking a lot longer pulling, and that is a concern. And that one of the things that we advocate for is the agility in the adoption, because technology does not wait. Its evolution does not wait, right? And the longer we take to adopt, it therefore means that we are disadvantaging ourselves, but we are also disadvantaging the beneficiaries of the utility of these platforms, which are the citizens.
Yeah, that is so true. So also in terms of the what will be happening on the day, what else can people expect, those that are looking to make it? And do you even still have space? Because I'm thinking, what if some people just found out today and they would like to attend tomorrow? Do you still have space, or you've already packed the venue?
Sadly, all the in-person seats have been taken, but the virtual, we have virtual seats that are tickets that are still available. People can visit our website deco.co.za, and they will then be able to find out about the summit and get to buy the virtual tickets. In terms of the big thing really that is happening, besides Dr. Nasipi Moya, who's the city manager of Tshwane, there are a number of panel discussions that will be happening. One of them being in AI and in the public sector communication. We are having a conversation around podcasting in the public sector. You and I, we know that we've always loved and enjoyed the traditional media, but if you think about what Channel Africa has actually done compared to a number of many other traditional radio stations, you are online. You are digital, right? So essentially, you are the first podcast, or at least one of the earliest podcast stations, as it were, because a lot of the podcasts, live on some platform digitally, can be accessed, post the conversations, and that is one of the things that conversations we are having on podcasting. Of course, government is always in crisis, and I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying always. And we are then going to also have a panel that will be covering, how communicators can, utilize moments of crisis to communicate and engage with citizens. And we have, a number of good experts. And lastly, we have our keynote speaker, which is Prof. Eldred Jordan, who's a professor of practice at the University of Johannesburg Business School. And he's one of those people that started early when South Africa had its first social media network, which was called Mixit. It's no longer there, but a lot of young people utilize that platform, right? And he's then going to be sharing insights on what it is that made that social networking platform work, and what can we then today look into and ensure that we captivate the audiences, because that is the thing really, right? Even at Channel Africa, your thing is that everyone who's both on the continent and in the diaspora who likes your content, the question is, how do you keep us engaged? How do you keep us listening to the next conversation, the next show, and be tuned in the following day? So that is what Professor Eldred Jordan will then be trying to help us really think about.
All right. And now I would actually, with the question I would ask if I would be there or if I was going to go, it's what killed Mixit actually, And I mean, I know why it worked, because it was a very first chat platform, which was very easy to use, to maneuver. But what killed it? I mean, that's what I've always wanted to know. Couldn't it have matured into something else? Because it just disappeared.
I have a suggestion. That is so immediately after his talk, I'm going to be having a Q&A. I'm going to quote you to say, question is from Puleng. She may not be here, but she's asking what killed Mixit, and you must answer that, and we'll share back with you once we have the answer.
Thank you for that. I think many people want to know as well. All right, Lorato, thank you so much for chatting to us this morning. And you say you're still selling virtual tickets.
Yes, we are.
Where?
The virtual tickets are on our website, which is decode.co.za. And when they're on the website, they go to a section which is called GovCom Social. They will find the tickets there. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much once again for joining us. And it's quite an interesting conversation that I actually believe, it's one that needs to be had at least not just once a year, but at least twice a year, because there's a lot of young people that would appreciate an open consistency as well, platform where they can catch up on what's going on with the government.
Thank you so much, Kaizeli, and to your listeners, a great Sunday.
All right, and that's Lorato Thinking, who is from Decode Communications. Tomorrow they are hosting a social media summit 2025 at the University of Johannesburg. As for me, I'm going to take a breather because you talking for too long. Need to always refresh. So we're going to refresh with a song that will bring us to our another great guest, and she is in cybersecurity as an entrepreneur.